Thank you for coming here to check out the Book Promotion Library. I'm Rob Alex, and I'm on this journey with you guys to help better promote, market, create everything to do with books. That's what the Book Promotion Library is about. And today we have another great video tip for you. And today we're going to talk about podcast interviews. I think podcasting is again coming back. It goes away a little bit and then it comes back strong, but it's coming back really strong right now. There's a lot of podcasters out there, and there are thousands and thousands of book focused podcasts out there. It's amazing how many readers are out there and want to know more and more information. And podcasts are a great way to get your book out there. We'd love to get them on television. We'd love to get them in the hands of celebrities, those type of things. But we got to start taking those baby steps. And podcasts are one of those things because there's so many out there. And they are always, if it's a book-related podcast, they're always excited to talk to an author and dive into the mind of the author. I know this for a fact because I ran a very successful podcast at one time that focused on books. It was called Authors Talk About It. But it was great because each week I'd bring on, me and my then wife would bring on another author each week, and we would have a conversation with them, find out the inspiration behind their book, find out why they wrote it, any interesting tidbits about the authors. It was great. People loved it. They loved hearing about it. They loved hearing the stories behind the books. But you can start this process on your own. So don't hesitate because podcasters are always looking for those things. Now, you might ask me, how do I get on a podcast? How do I get my book on one of those? How do I get an interview? First thing you need to do is you need to be comfortable with your speech. Make sure you're prepared to be on a podcast. Do some rehearsing at home. Talk on a microphone. Do little videos to see what you're doing, because sometimes they're video podcasts, sometimes they're just audio. But make sure your speech is good. Make sure you're comfortable with talking on a microphone or into a video system. That's the number one thing. And then as you feel like you're comfortable and you feel like you're ready, start reaching out to podcasters. Start doing the research. Go to iTunes, go to podcast service, and start researching book podcasts. And you'll find that a lot of them have websites. A lot of them will even have a section where you can become a guest. You can fill out a form to become a guest on their show. Those are always good things. One thing I caution, though, is always listen to the podcast before you send in asking to be a guest, and make sure it fits not only your genre, but just your style. Some podcasts out there are very shock jock kind of thing, where they're wanting to put you on the spot all the time, and things like that. So make sure the podcast fits your personality, and that you think that it would be a good fit for that podcast. Because the last thing you want to do is get on a podcast and it not go so well, because that's not what you want. So that's how you start out, and then if they have a form, fill out the form, request to be on the podcast. If not, you can reach out, because there's usually an email on there. Reach out and ask if they are accepting interviews, that type of thing. Be prepared, have some kind of information to pass along to them about what your book is, the title, the synopsis of your book, where it's available for sale. Those type of things go a long way, so that they can be prepared if they're considering you for an interview, that they will be prepared for your interview, because the last thing you want to do is a lot of dead space or anything like that. And that goes both ways. The podcaster should be adept at filling in that dead space, but sometimes they're newer, they're just getting into it, and sometimes it's a little hiccupy. But never pass up an opportunity to be on a podcast. If it fits your style, anything like that, never pass up an opportunity, because they might only have 10 or 12 listeners at that time, but you never know when that might snowball, and they might get more and more, because most of those podcasters don't delete episodes. They keep them, and if somebody likes it, they'll go back and they'll re-listen to those. Last thing, though, after you have done a podcast interview, make sure to send you a thank you. Make sure to send some kind of thank you documentation, either an email or a letter, to the podcaster, thanking them for allowing you to be on. And then assure them that you're going to share the podcast, because that goes that's just should be just a given. For one, it helps them out. That's a benefit to you and to them both. By you sharing their podcast, they're helping share your book, so you should help share their podcast. But also, gives you a lot of credibility. Now you have that for your media page. You can put it on your website, share it across your social media. Hey, my book was featured on blah, blah, blah podcast. Goes a long way to helping promote both of you in that sense and giving you some credibility as an author. Now, one more thing we have to talk about is there are some podcasts out there that charge. Not a big fan of that as far as that goes, as charging people to be a guest on their podcast. I've had a few of those where I didn't even know that was happening until after the thing was done. And then they were like, well, if you want us to promote this, it's going to cost this much. If you want to promote it bigger, it's going to cost this much. I don't want to pay for a podcast interview, but that's up to you. That's your decision to make to what your return on investment will be. But I'm not totally against it if it's the right situation, the right fit, but that's a call that you're going to have to make. I just want you to be aware that some podcasters do charge in that sense. So it's kind of like an advertisement fee in that sense if you're looking at it from a big perspective. So again, podcasts are getting huge again. They're out there. They're all over the place. I talked to several people that listen to them on a regular basis. They find their next great book on podcasts. That's what they're looking for. So, and the more you can get out there and pitch your book, the better. So podcasts are a growing way because you don't even have to leave the comfort of your home 99% of the time to do a podcast interview. So there's the scoop for today. Podcast interviews, do them for your book because they will do some good for your book. So I will be back again next week with another tip for all you amazing authors out there. So peace be with you, and I'll see you real soon.